This is the best description ever given, as far as I'm aware at all, of what God really is. Now, there's a massive mystery about Sri Krishna himself. Now, with Sri Krishna, you have one of the most brilliant minds that ever walked this earth. He was a Saturnian intelligence. I personally believe that Sri Krishna, in that moment, entered in a controlled way cosmic consciousness. I know that when you're in a samadhic state, you can only say I. You can only, it isn't even saying, it isn't even thinking, it's being. I am. When Sri Krishna entered this state and then transfer it to Arjuna, his prime purpose wasn't, I believe, to give one of the greatest teachings we've ever received, namely the Bhagavad Gita. It was to get Arjuna, who was their most brilliant fighter in certain regards, particularly of what we now can see was a ray gun, to take his part in the right way, with the right motive not being a thought but a state of being, to play his role correctly in that battle.
Hello and welcome back to the Spiritual Freedom Show with Richard Lawrence. My name is Darren Ball, and this is the podcast helping you to awaken your chakras, to unlock your psychic powers, and to discover true spirituality. This week's show delves into one of the most profound moments in our spiritual history, as recorded in the Bhagavad Gita, where in the midst of a great battle, Sri Krishna reveals to the warrior Arjuna the truth about the divine spark within, so that Arjuna may play his role in the salvation of humanity on Earth as part of the end times Atlantean war that was unfolding. So stay tuned to discover what this means for your own spiritual destiny and what you can do to better appreciate this divine spark within you. Please do also subscribe to the channel so we can help more people, more seekers, to discover these incredible and inspiring spiritual truths.
Richard,
Darren,
let me start here with a little short story to set the scene and bring us into the moment on the battlefield when all is still and a chariot stands between two armies. Paralyzed with indecision, a warrior speaks to his charioteer. It is Arjuna and Sri Krishna. And Arjuna pleads for clarity so that he might act with wisdom. But words are not enough for this moment. With your ordinary eyes you cannot see me, proclaims the mighty Sri Krishna. So I give you divine sight. Behold. And in that moment, time collapses, form dissolves, and Arjuna glimpses it all. Like the radiance of 1,000 suns rising at once, that which has no beginning, no middle, no end, the creator, the preserver and destroyer of all things. He falls to the ground and with bowed head begins to pray, and his voice cracks. Thou art that. And so today we explore this awesome moment of revelation in the Bhagavad Gita. But I think what I'd like to focus on today is what this really means, and how can we interpret this I am from a more mystical perspective.
I personally believe that Sri Krishna, in that moment, and this is an amazing achievement if I'm right, himself entered in a controlled way cosmic consciousness, or shall we say tapped into it, because he was speaking, so he can't have been fully enveloped in it. But he was tapping into that state within himself in some way, hence he was talking in the I am, and he made many statements in the I am, because in my incredibly limited way, I know that when you're in a samadhic state, and this can be misunderstood by some people, you can only say I. You can only, it isn't even saying, it isn't even thinking, it's being. I am. Because anything else, even if you think I am one with,
There's immediately two.
there's a suggestion of separation, and there is no separation at that point. And I think then he would have entered the state sufficiently, or in an embryonic way, or however he did it sufficiently, in order then to transfer it, transmit it to Arjuna. Now, with Sri Krishna, you have one of the most brilliant minds that ever walked this earth, or been on this earth. And it's very clear to see, if you look at what he did, what he was streets ahead of everybody around him. But what was actually going on there was a massive battle. It wasn't some war in a particular region or state of India. This was the global conflict. So to really understand that, one has to go to Dr. King's description. Now, in the introduction to the 9 freedoms, Dr. King gives a very potted summary of previous civilizations, Lemuria and then Atlantis, and even before that, the planet Maldek, from which we came. And I personally think this would be a result, I haven't been told this, of him reading the Akashic records. Said with that authority, there are no particular sources, and I think it's be good because it's totally relevant to the setting of the scene that you've described.
The context. Yeah.
So look at how Dr. King described that. He said there was a great mental battle on Atlantis. So we're going back here tens of thousands of years, right there, between the white magicians and the evil practitioners of the dark arts. Again, the sadistic minds of those dark ones unlocked the Pandora's box and invented 2 atomic weapons. They quarreled among themselves. One side made a weapon called Indra's dart, which was an atomic bomb, and the other side invented a controllable atomic ray called, surprisingly enough, the Brahma weapon, or weapon of God. One could go on from there, but just leaving it there for the moment. That's spot on, absolutely spot on with the Mahabharata. And I don't know whether, and it's quite possible, that Dr. King didn't study the Mahabharata in detail. He certainly knew the Bhagavad Gita, that part of it, very well. But it's spot on, because one of the sides, which is regarded in the Mahabharata as the unrighteous, wicked side, had Indra's dart, and the other side, I think I've got it right, had the Brahma
as
weapon,
reported in the Mahabharata.
As reported in the Mahabharata. You have weaponry there, you have laser weaponry, clearly, because there is weaponry where they can, as we see in films, a red spot appears on someone before they're shot. You have targeting facility. You have screens described.
As like a shield.
Electronic screens. You have here a science. This isn't bows and arrows. Maybe those who wrote this down,
that's all they could have. Yeah.
That's how they saw it.
Yes.
And they saw it as taking place in India, in a region. I mean, just to name one thing, it is said by one of the main people in it, by the name of Yudhisthira, that 1.6 billion people died.
Yeah, that's a nuclear conflagration.
You know, there aren't 1.6 billion people in India now. Never mind then. And going back in the period they're looking at, 5,000 years BC or 5,000 years ago, whatever, I don't think there were 20 million people in the world. So clearly this is a major conflagration. I think he also said that 24,000 people survived. This is what you are dealing with. Sri Krishna was a brilliant mind that was desperately needed. So he goes on, Dr. King, to describe, I won't read it all in here, that certain white magicians were removed from this earth in 5 space vehicles known as the cities of Shan. I've never been able to find a reference to the cities of Shan, by the way, anywhere. So I'm taking it again. This is information he gained from reading the Akashic records. The Akashic records are absolutely crucial, I believe, to the understanding of this whole period. The white magicians had been taken. There were then two dark sides. So even the good side, as depicted in the Mahabharata, isn't all good, or they wouldn't be using these weapons. They were using them too. And one of them, who is regarded as one of the good, the really good, righteous people, is said in there to have drunk the blood of someone that he killed. I don't know, how true all that is. But so Sri Krishna had to manage all these people. There was a group of 7, at least 7, who, according to the Mahabharata, had divine births. And the one thing about those 7 is they all revered Krishna. Now, there's a massive mystery about Sri Krishna himself. He was a Saturnian intelligence, and it would take a real dire catastrophe for us to even warrant in any way the coming to Earth of a Saturnian, because the Saturnians, these are the most advanced masters by a long way, actually. And you've got to read the 9 freedoms, you can see by a big margin who've ever come, who exist in this solar system, excluding the sun, of course. And yet it was seen necessary for a Saturnian to come to Earth at that moment Just like in our day, which is also potentially just as dangerous, we've got atomic weaponry now.
Again,
It was deemed necessary for the adepts, one of whom we know, the king who came to Earth, to come at this time. It's very interesting. And I see myself, knowing Dr. King as well as I did know him, and understanding the cosmic plan in the way that those who study the Aetherius Society can understand it. These events fall into place much more. You can look at them, and I've looked at them in depth, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. They make a lot of sense in the light of what we've learned, as well as our own meditations on it. You can see what was really going on a bit there.
Mm-hmm.
So you had this great Saturnian with a brilliant mind, way ahead of everybody, every other player that appears in those legends, even though the writings big up, as they say nowadays, a lot of them, they weren't near Sri Krishna's level. Not even the good, really good ones in the world. There's one of them in particular, I mentioned Yudhisthira, who actually ascended in that life. So he's got to be in advance. But he made some mistakes. He needed guidance. Even he needed help. Without Sri Krishna, it would have been devastating. It would have probably been a full-scale takeover. Never mind what was coming from lower realms to influence them, which Sri Krishna, of course, would have known. So all of that's a bit of a preamble. But when Sri Krishna entered this state, to the degree that he did enter it anyway, and then transfer it to Arjuna, his prime purpose wasn't, I believe, to give one of the greatest teachings we've ever received, namely the Bhagavad Gita, which is what that is. It was to get Arjuna, who was their most brilliant fighter in certain regards, particularly of what we now can see was a ray gun, to take his part in the right way, with the right motive not being a thought, but a state of being, to play his role correctly in that battle. What Sri Krishna, it seems to me, was trying to do, and it's not just me, I mean, it's clear, is make sure that out of this situation, at least some goodness prevailed afterwards. He tried to bring peace first. He tried very hard to do that, Sri Krishna, which is amazing because he was a cowherd, but he had so much power, wisdom, knowledge, which would be recognized because Atlantis was
at that time
far more magical a world. It wasn't just science, it was magic as well, which it isn't so much now, not openly anyway. And he proved himself, and they wanted his guidance, and there were these 7 people, 6 men and 1 woman, Draupadi was the woman, who had all had divine births, which is interesting in itself because you aren't talking about ascended people. One of them did ascend, but the others, none of them were ascended when they were born. They'd come down from the higher realms. I would say probably volunteered to come down.
To play this role.
So they were relatively advanced, and they did obey and follow the guidelines of Sri Krishna. And thank goodness they did, because they would have made a lot of mistakes if they hadn't.
So they were playing like a salvation role in this end times battle that was happening.
They were fighters in it. What comes over time and time again is their naivety.
Okay.
Where Sri Krishna can see exactly what everyone's playing at. He knows exactly what needs to be done all the time. And he has cunning. And he is, on the face of it, at times duplicitous, if necessary, to bring about the end result that he wants to bring about, and which is brought about. But it's a dire situation. According to, as I say, Dr. King's writing here in the 9 Freedoms, it's a bit of gold dust, this introduction. I take it as a reading of the Akashic record. I think that the Mahabharata itself is a reading of the Akashic record by a sage known as Vyasa, dictated to Ganesha, it said, who wrote it down. But I think it's probably then been put through the minds and the translations and the thoughts with lots of emphasis on, as I say, I would say, I'm sorry to say this, petty, personal relations of various people, which has kind of discolored it a bit. But if you strip all that away, you can still see the essence of what was going on. And the greatness, the incredible mind, that's what really comes over to me. And it's very familiar to me. because knowing Dr. King as I did, he was a strategist. Sri Krishna was a strategist. Dr. King was cunning in a spiritual way, and he had no illusions about the dark forces at all. He knew how they operate. He actually had tremendous compassion for them, strange as it may sound, but he wasn't going to be fooled by them. And you can see the same quality there.
I think one thing that you've really brought to light here is the the person of Sri Krishna. This is an avatar who has come to Earth from the higher realm of another planet, who's come here as a divine intervention to help us in this moment when the future of humanity on Earth is really teetering on the edge. And I think that's to bring it back to our original beginning there. Because a lot of people will mistake the I am as of God itself.
Yeah.
Whereas he's expressing himself in that state as the I am.
That's the key thing. And I think the same must be true of Jesus. When he says, I am the way, the truth, the life.
Yes.
And we have touched in a previous show on Count St. Germain, who introduced or inspired the I am movement. In the 12 blessings, you've got, it is the I am within man. In the description in the 12th blessing of God is second to none, absolutely none. This is the best description ever given, as far as I'm aware at all, of what God really is, really is. And one thing it is, according to that blessing, is it is the I am within man. And it's through that, and I know this from personal experience, it's through that. And that's the only way you can know God.
I think, to that point exactly, I mean, I think that's very revealing of our own potential, because it is about our direct knowledge of God. And Sri Krishna is demonstrating that in that moment. Jesus obviously demonstrated that. And they both spoke, as you say, talking about the I am, various points in the Bible is reported, and in the Bhagavad Gita is reported in that way. And I think it's a very hopeful message as well, an inspiring one, because it's saying that we have that divine potential.
Yeah.
And
you can feed it. And there's a particular mantra which we use very regularly in the Aetherius Society, and others use it too. It's well known, and its meaning when translated is I am the jewel within the lotus. Some say within the heart of the lotus. The lotus is the chakra. The jewel within it is the I am.
Yes.
And the jewel, of course, is the divine aspect. And when you take all those jewels up, in fact, brings us back to something we were talking about recently, namely ascension. There is a statement here. I'm going from teaching to teaching.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Got them all right.
There's a statement in here about ascension, which is rather a brilliant one. Ascension is like a single-faced jewel. It is pointed, it reflects light and radiates light, and yet it is made up of all jewels. So I've diverted there, but it just illustrates at that point, they all have arisen,
yes,
they've all become one, but you've taken, and this mantra has that meaning, and when that mantra lives within you, Dr. King said, it's 7 meanings. And I don't personally think that's by chance that he said 7, because there are 7 major chakras or lotuses. I mean, here's a useful thing for people, perhaps a takeaway that people can actually use. It's actually in the book, Realize Your Inner Potential, which I was honored to co-author with Dr. King. And Dr. King gives this affirmation: I am the divine presence which is creating perfection throughout my whole life. I am the divine presence which is creating perfection throughout my whole life. Now, people can use that. It's safe to use in a way that sometimes a Sanskrit mantra isn't safe to use. For example, when you're driving, or you can do this any time, and you can feed that part of your being which knows this to be true.
Yes.
Through thought. And it's it brings you self-confidence, apart from anything else. And it brings you a certain inner peace, because it's true. It's the greatest news, actually, there is, that we are divine. There's no greater news for us as individuals or collectively as the fact that we are divine.
I totally agree. And that's, that mystical reading of therefore going back to these texts, these holy texts, the Bible, Bhagavad Gita, if we reading into it instead that this is not someone claiming to be God, but this is someone affirming the I am within them, which exists within us as well.
Within all.
Yeah. And as an inspiration for us to realize our own divine potential.
Absolutely.
Is an incredible message.
It certainly is. And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. And I would just coming back to your own experience. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit before, but I think it would just help to ground this all a bit more for people, that, this is something that you have experienced yourself. It's not something that you kind of think or say, but it's a state of being that we can have.
Well, yeah, when if I give my take on it, and it's based on a true experience, with cosmic consciousness, it's not cosmic because you want it to be. It's cosmic because you are having oneness with divinity, and divinity isn't limited. Divinity is all life, everywhere. You can't experience oneness with God without experiencing oneness with the absolute, to some degree. Yeah. Now, obviously, the greater intelligences, they connect to this to a much greater extent and a much deeper extent. Even Dr. King said that he couldn't picture, even in cosmic consciousness, these 900 million solar logi revolving around the one within the center. There is a state which is described in the ninth freedom of galactic consciousness. Yeah. I've got it here. Page 174. Go into galactic consciousness for a period of 500,000 of your terrestrial years. Now, that state, what we have to remember, though, about that, is that this is the Lords of the Sun. The Lords of the Sun affect galaxies because they're radiance as stars, and they are the radiance from the Sun, which is their master, is seen beyond this galaxy even. So their remit, if you like, isn't limited to this solar system or even this galaxy. And so therefore, the way they would experience it is infinitely more complete, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
But nevertheless, the principle has to be the same. Hence, the same words are used, or similar words are used. Samadhi is used about higher beings entering high samadhic states. Now, we gain this experience in order, because we haven't, those of us who've gained it haven't yet ascended,
right,
to deal with our evolution on Earth. But you can only do that fully by understanding our place in the cosmos, because
beautifully put.
God is the cosmos. God is all. And so you are going to transcend, certainly. Well, I think Yogananda describes nebulae and all sorts in his experience of cosmic consciousness.
You just reminded me of, I think it's in the Nine Freedoms actually, or it might be elsewhere, where Dr. King says that it's when we understand our true place in the cosmos that we'll begin to use this energy of love correctly.
Yes, that's true as well. Yeah.
And I think that so what you said there, I think, is a real key. It's like we understanding the true nature of the cosmos, our place in it, and beginning to finally play our role with it in basically an expression of that oneness and love and service to others.
Yeah, and the only thing you want to do as a result of it is serve, which brings us all the way back to Arjuna.
Yes,
who was given this state, not to bathe in the bliss of it or everything, to fight a battle that was going to be fought. It was just a question of how it was going to be fought and who would win. And this is where Sri Krishna used his brilliance. He knew that Arjuna was ready, or certainly he made him ready or capable of experiencing this.
Yes.
It couldn't just be forced on anybody. But he obviously helped him to receive it by passing it to him. And secondly, that this would then prepare him for his role. A little bit like I think Yogananda was prepared for his mission through it.
Great analogy.
Which was to go to America, and spread. He wasn't the first. Vivekananda had come before him and some others. But he really was, perhaps, from a PR point of view, had the biggest impact, reached the most people, especially through his book.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful message there to end. That this gives us, it prepares us to be of greater service ultimately.
Everything does, including ascension itself.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Hey, Spiritual Freedom Show family, thanks for tuning into the show. Now, what I take away from that episode is that God is not somehow external to us. God is within, God is our essence and all things in creation. And when Jesus and Sri Krishna said, I am, they were not claiming to be God itself. They were experiencing and expressing themselves in a deep state of God realization, which is the destiny of us all. This is just one of the many profound spiritual teachings that we have been given by advanced extraterrestrials, and just one of the ways in which they have helped us in our spiritual evolution. Now, what's so incredible about the Mahabharata, when you have the insight of Dr. George King and what Richard has offered today, is that you can see that what we have described here is the intervention on Earth by an extraterrestrial, Sri Krishna, at a pivotal moment, a dire moment in which our future hung in the balance. And for me, this completely reframes these myths that have been passed down for centuries as aspects of our true history and makes them all the more profound. Now, if you enjoyed that episode about Sri Krishna and the great I Am, then I encourage you to follow or subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes that can help you to awaken your chakras, to unlock your psychic powers, and to discover true spirituality. Now, if you're interested in more right now, I recommend that you check out this video over here so that you can discover how to connect more deeply with your own soul. Thanks for tuning into the show, and see you next time.